Today we're going to be covering a grab bag of issues that include some business practices that differ very much across cultures. Okay, and if you'll open up your business ethics in action text to page 127, we'll start in right there and talk a little bit about the first of these grab bag issues. Okay, and that is bribery. Okay, so the case that's listed there at the beginning of the chapter is the Siemens case. Can someone tell us what was going on in that case? This is a major, famous German company. They are famous for their industrial applications and for their enormous electronics and engineering projects. Okay, what was going on in this case? I see a bunch of beyond integrity texts.
Yeah, totally
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry that we're still behind on the syllabus, but we are moving towards parity with where the syllabus states that we are. And so for that reason, I was moving on to business ethics in action today. Okay. This was a bribery case. Okay, it was a bribery case. All right, and to summarize the case, this company had a slush fund, a series of slush funds, offshore most of them, that they used to run an international bribery ring, especially in the developing world, where they bribed a large number of developing world governments for the sake of obtaining contracts for large industrial projects. Okay, and they got their hand caught in the cookie jar and ended up having to pay exorbitant fines. Okay, so there's a European company, the EU, fined them many hundreds of millions, all told. And in the end, it didn't really work out for Siemens the way they had hoped. I want to talk for a minute, though, about bribery. And I want to talk a little bit about exactly what the wrongness of bribery consists in. Okay, because quite frankly, if you go to certain parts of the world, what you're going to find is bribery is very widespread. Okay, facilitation payments, large gifts to government officials, this sort of thing is very widespread. Okay, and bribery does exist in the United States. It exists in the form of campaign donations, usually proxy mechanisms like speaking fees for speeches that are just given for an hour, and the speaker is given, $2 million for an hour-long speech or something ridiculous, right? This sort of thing happens, okay? But it is much more endemic, even if it does occur in the United States, it's much more endemic in other parts of the world. Come on in. And in the developing world in particular, what you can find is certain business climates where it is in fact not possible to get business done without paying or receiving bribes. Okay, I know that's a strong statement, but it is the reality. You must, in order to pay to get the contract, pay a bribe to the appropriate government official. Okay, I have many times been to Mexico. And some of us come from Mexico, and Mexico has a culture of substantive bribery in it. Okay, perhaps more so. In fact, I think much more than the United States. My church, before things got bad with the cartels in northern Mexico, my church ran some orphanages in Coahuila. And I would go down there regularly, and I remember one van trip in particular where we were stopped by a local policeman, and he asked for a bribe to not take us down to the station. And our van driver, God bless him, he said, "No, man, we're just a church group. We're bringing toys and clothing to the orphans. We don't really do this. This is not what it's about." And the guy persisted. He said, "Christmas is coming." Quite clearly the poor policeman was underpaid, and the administrative officials running his department almost certainly counted on bribes that the policeman solicited from local people he stopped in order to make up the difference in his salary. Poor guy. But anyway, our van driver said, "No, man, that's not what we're about. We just don't do that. If that's the case, then we're just gonna head back across the border." And the policeman backed off. He said, "Okay, that's cool." So it is something that is so widespread that even something as routine as a traffic stop in northern Mexico manifests it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the wrongness of bribery. Bribery is prohibited in the United States in business. We also have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And just so we're all clear on that, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act suggests, it doesn't suggest, it stipulates that any American company, that is a company domiciled in America, that engages in bribes in other parts of the world can be prosecuted to the full extent of the law as if it were paying or receiving bribes within the borders of the United States. Okay, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, in other words, prevents American companies from paying and receiving bribes elsewhere in the world. Does this mean these companies don't do that? Oh, they frequently do it. They also get caught sometimes, and when they get caught, it's usually bad for them. It goes bad for them. But those that don't get caught probably receive certain benefits from it. Okay, the wrongness of bribery, I think, consists in two things. We can make two arguments. One is a deontological argument, that is a principles-based argument, an argument that doesn't look at consequences, but that it looks just at the nature of the act in itself. Okay, and this is an argument that says that bribery is wrong because bribery undermines fairness in the business climate. So it is a fairness-based argument, and in order for business to function and to flourish in any setting, business persons need to believe that there is fairness in the system. And bribery, quite clearly, leads government officials, or whoever's receiving the bribe, to privilege some kinds of companies over and against others. And in fact, actually, they often don't privilege the best equipped company. They often privilege whoever just happens to pay the largest facilitation payment. Okay, and this undermines fairness, and the argument here is that it is unjust to pay or receive bribes precisely because fairness is damaged. Okay, there's a second argument, though. This is a deontological argument that is a principles-based argument regardless of outcome. There's a second-based argument that is a consequentialist argument. Consequentialist arguments point towards the outcome of an action in evaluating the goodness or badness of the action. And if the action leads to a bad outcome, then that action is unjustifiable on this view. Okay, and the argument is this. This is widespread in the literature. You can see it all over in numerous sociological studies that have been done. Let me read you a brief list of countries. I'm sorry, I'd put a map of these countries up on the board, but unfortunately for us, because of the technological situation,